Hi, welcome to a video to introduce you to some renal anatomy. We're looking at a model from the anatomy lab, and the organ we're able to see here is the kidney proper. If we spin it around, this is what it kind of looks like. The external kidney anatomy is going to have an indentation that is going to be where the sinus or the space is, the entrance into the internal space that allows some vessels to collect filtrate, as well as the renal artery and the renal vein to penetrate to the inner workings of the kidney. There's also the adrenal gland on the surface of the superior border of the kidney. All right, that indentation of the kidney is known as the hilum. It allows for the renal artery, the renal vein, and then also the pipes, the calyxes and renal pelvis that collect filtrate to have an area to exit the kidney. Hilum is that indentation, and then there's a space in here through which all these pipes fit. That pipe is known as the renal sinus, just kind of like you have sinuses or the nasal sinus in your nasal cavity. All right, so external anatomy. The kidney is encapsulated, so there's a capsule layer, and the inside of the capsule is the cortical tissue, and from the cortical tissue we move into medullary deeper tissue. Curiously, the cortical tissue actually extends into the medulla, forming these small little columns known as the renal columns. So renal columns will be a location for blood vessels to travel through. If we consider the anatomy of the medulla, we find that it is created or filled with many of these pockets of tissues that serve distinct functions known as the renal pyramid. And the renal pyramid is going to be concentrating filtrate. The very tip of the pyramid is the area known as the renal papillae. The renal papillae is going to drop filtrate that was produced in the pyramids out into the calyce area. So at this point, this is just taking up space. We have transitional epithelium, and the goal is to simply create a barrier of the relatively acidic and toxic products of urine from being able to diffuse back into tissues. So this creates a membrane or barrier. Now, this tubing system goes from small areas, from the renal papillae into minor calyces. So there's a minor calyce at the bottom of each renal papillae. Those minor calyces form a larger structure known as the major calyce. A major calyce collects filtrate from several minor calyces. Major calyces are located throughout the sinus and fuse to form one large renal pelvis. The renal pelvis is then going to narrow as it exits the hilum and form the ureter.